Hello everybody, welcome back to the Wheels on Wheels YouTube channel, and this is my new, to me, BMW E46 330 Ci manual coupe M Sport, all the good words. And today, as you can probably tell by the way I'm dressed, we're going to be doing some mechanical work to it. So it has a couple of minor issues. The coolant level warning light is constantly on. I've tried changing the sensor and that hasn't worked, so there's obviously an issue with the coolant reservoir, and it runs cold all the time, so the thermostat is obviously stuck open. And while I'm in there, I'm going to be doing a refresh of the auxiliary belt system. So a new auxiliary belt, new pulleys, all of that good stuff. So let's get started. So here is the incredible M54 B30 3-litre straight 6 engine. And down here is some of the parts we're going to be replacing. There's the water pump pulley, there's the thermostat, here is the coolant reservoir. So let's take a quick look at the parts we're going to be replacing today. Oh shit. Oh shit. Why? Why? Oh, guys, I can't believe this. The car has just locked. The keys are on the driver's seat. I only have one key for this car. What do I do? I mean, technically I can carry on with the job, but now I'm practically
A few moments later.
And these are frameless windows as well, so it's not like I can bend open the door frame to stick something in. They're frameless. And the worst bit is I haven't even put the handbrake on, so I can't. Oh, hang on. Yes! Oh, thank God for that. Okay, right, I realise what's happened now. This key here is for the compact, but I programmed it to be able to remotely unlock and lock this car because I was just messing around with it. So it's got the wrong key blade, but it does unlock this car. That must be how that happened. Okay, panic averted. Taking the keys out though, I'm not having that happen again. In fact, putting the window down so that doesn't happen again. Right, okay, so here's the parts we're going to be fitting today. We have a new thermostat. That. We have a new water pump, new expansion tank, which you can see there, new water pump pulley, and an entire auxiliary belt kit, which consists of, I'll show you, new pulleys and new belts. Also later on in the video, I buy a replacement radiator. Now it's very important to make sure you use good quality parts when doing this job, particularly the water pump. I've done a lot of research on this. The only acceptable water pump in my mind, other than the factory original one, is the Pulley PA659S. I'll put a link down in the description for all of this stuff. This is the only acceptable water pump to replace the genuine one with, in my opinion. And yeah, looks really good quality. And of course you want to make sure your thermostat is also a very good quality part. So Borg-Warner is a original part, or Wala, you see there, Wala, Borg-Warner, same company. And I think this is more or less, again, an OE part. The expansion tank's quite important. I've gone for a Marl one. There's a few good brands according to my research, but Marl is a good value option. Just gone for a Febby water pump pulley, and of course this belt kit is all good quality stuff, INA and male parts in there. There's a seller on eBay who does these kits for if you have the hydraulic or mechanical tensioner. They do this kit as one box that you can receive, so they've done all the hard work for you finding the correct parts, so I'll put a link for that down in the description as well. First step is to jack up your car. Make sure to always use axle stands. Okay, now that we've got the car jacked up and on axle stands, first thing we need to do is remove this intake pipe work and remove this big fan that's in our way. So I'm just going to start by doing that. So in most cases you'll have some push pins here. In my case, this is actually broken, so I can just pretty much pull it straight out like that. That was easy. So to remove the fan, first of all, there are two connectors here. That's one, and you just push down on the clip at the top like that. And the second one has two clips that you squeeze in either side, and it comes out just like that. Next, to remove the fan, there are usually two screws. So you've got one here and there should be one right here as well, but as you can see on mine, there's nothing there. So I've just got one screw to remove, which is this one right here. So this one here is a T25. I believe the other one this side would be a T30. Not sure why they're different. That's our one screw removed, and then I believe we can just lift it up. And there we have our fan assembly removed. What I am going to do is just pop this screw back in here to stop the radiator from moving, like so. So next thing I want to do is remove this air box, because the expansion tank is buried beneath the air box. So we've got two 10mm bolts here. We have the MAF sensor plug, pushing it down, and that just unplugs like that. So then we've got this big Jubilee clip here to remove, which we could either use a flathead or my preferred method, which is a 6mm socket, and loosen it like that. There we are. So you can push the pipe off there, and the whole thing should come out. There's a little pipe down here you might be able to see, so I'm just going to try and unclip it because I'm struggling to wiggle it out. There we go. And there is also this tube here that sits on the airbox with this little rubber grommet thing. There we go. And that is the airbox removed. Take a cloth or something and shove it into the intake hole so that nothing falls in. That's very important. Okay, so the next thing to do is to remove the under tray. Now, in most cases, if your car is standard, you will just have screws like this where you turn it 180 degrees and the screw just drops out and it remains captive there. In my case, I have a lot of these screws because the original fixings were broken. So basically you just go around, turn these out 180 degrees like that, and it will drop down. Okay, that is the under tray removed, and you'll see on the floor we already have coolant leak dripping, and if I show you, coming from the bottom of this expansion tank. So I'm glad I'm replacing this. It's not a minute too soon by the looks of it. While I'm down here, I might as well start by draining the coolant, and they make it very easy on this car. You just undo this blue screw. And now that's pouring out nicely. In fact, that's going to overflow any second. So next we need to remove the coolant level sensor plug. Again, it's just a case of pinching the clip like that. And then this expansion tank disconnects from the bracket here by pulling out on this. So we just need to remove these hoses from the top here, pulling out these clips like that. And then I think this just comes out upwards or something. Oh God, coolant everywhere. Okay, make sure to leave a tray underneath when you do that because there's still some coolant that comes out apparently. There is one more hose down there actually. Okay, next thing we want to do is remove this upper hose completely. So again, just pull metal clip out. There we have it, top radiator hose removed. Okay, so this right here is the thermostat. So there is a connector on top that should have a metal clip on it. In my case, I can just push it and it removes. That's not ideal, but yeah, I have to put that to one side. And right here we have another hose that's attached to the bottom of the thermostat. Again, same thing, metal clip you pull out. Make sure the tray is underneath it this time. If you're prying it out like I am, just be very careful because obviously everything's plastic. I'm replacing a lot of these parts, so I don't have to be too careful, but they can get quite seized on over the years. There we go. So next I'm going to remove the thermostat. So we have 3 10mm bolts, one here and 2 hidden underneath. So the bolts at the bottom for me are actually quite rusted, so I'm having to hammer on the socket a little bit.
1 minute later.
So what I've done is I've hammered on a 9mm because the 10mm was rounding, so it was very rusted. Ugh. Wow. Got it out by hammering on a 9mm. Look how rusted that was. I was very lucky that I got that out, to be honest.
Later on my luck runs out massively, so make sure to stay tuned for that.
And we have one 13mm right here. And we've got an 11mm nut here that holds this bracket on. So this bracket goes round, and that's what the 13mm bolt goes through. It stops the thermostat from coming out. Okay, so I did have some trouble getting this nut off because the sort of bolt cum stud that it's on was turning with it, but I've just used a bit of WD-40 and worked it back and forth, and it has now actually freed off. Just going to put the nut loosely back on there. So this bracket doesn't look like it actually needs to come off as such, because we've got an oil line here that's in the way, and I don't really want to remove that. So it looks like now that it's loose, it won't be in the way anymore, and I can just pull the thermostat off. That's the thermostat free, so I should be able to just remove it. There we are. There we have our old thermostat. So on here, you'll notice it's an original, genuine part, because it says BMW there, it's got the BMW logo, and you'll also notice it says Wala. So the brand we've gone for is also Wala, so it's the original manufacturer for this part, so it's more or less a genuine part. So this here is our water pump pulley. We've got 4 little 10mm bolts. Whilst the belt is still on, we're going to loosen off these bolts. That's them loosened off. So the next thing we need to do is relieve the tension on the belt and remove the belt. In this case, I have a hydraulic tensioner. You can tell it's a hydraulic one by this cylindrical shape here. If you have a mechanical one, it works very similar. You basically just need to remove the cover on the tensioner pulley, which is this one, and inside here you'll either have a Torx or an Allen bit. So once you've removed this cover, you want to use a mirror or something. I couldn't actually find a mirror, so I used my phone and took a picture, and you'll see it is the 8mm hex bit. Gently turn it clockwise. Now I say gently because this is the hydraulic tensioner. The hydraulic tensioner requires slow, even pressure because the hydraulic fluid has to work back through the system. And once it's reached the end, you can take the belt off, like so. And there you are. There's the belt removed. And as you can see, it's in pretty rough shape. There's cracks all the way through it, continuous cracks. So I think this is probably the original 23-year-old belt. Right, while we're here, let's remove our water pump pulley. Now I expect this to be a little bit seized, as you can see by the condition of it. It's probably the original pump, and it is very, very rusty. So I've just got a little pry bar here. Let's see if we can't get it off just by a bit of wiggling. Oh, there we go. And there is the original plastic water pump pulley, which looks in pretty good condition, to be honest. Okay, this reveals to us our water pump. So we have 4 10mm nuts, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, they're quite rusty. So I'm just going to use a little bit of WD-40 and we'll undo them. Okay, that's all the nuts removed. So now should come free. I think a little bit of persuasion once again is required.
As you can see, this persuasion consisted of lots of tapping with a hammer and prying with a pry bar to get it free, being careful not to pry on anything that could break.
There we go. There we go. So here's our old pump and our new pump. They both have the plastic water impellers, which I think is really important. A lot of people say go for a metal one. I disagree with that entirely because the metal impeller is a lot heavier and will probably put more strain on the bearings internally. So this one's in pretty good condition. Presumably this is the original. It's definitely a genuine part. It's got the BMW stamp there, and the bearing is quite noisy actually. Don't know if you can hear that. This one is much nicer. So we'll pop this one in a moment. But first of all, I'm going to use this little sanding sponge here to clean the inside where the water pump goes into, where the O-ring meets, to make sure we get a good seal. Okay, now that's all clean, I'm going to use some silicone spray just to lubricate. Same on the O-ring. There we go. And pop your nuts back on. And the torque spec for these nuts is 10 Newton meters. I'm now going to install the new thermostat. So once again, sanding sponge with a bit of coolant on it, just to give it something to clean it with. And I'm just basically cleaning the face of it so that the O-ring has somewhere flat to sit, because we don't want any leaks. Okay, I've had to switch cameras because my new DJI camera decided to stop working properly. I've cleaned the mating surface of the thermostat, and we've got our new thermostat here. And just reinstall the new thermostat. Now you'll remember one of these 10mm bolts completely got rounded and I had to hammer a 9mm on to get it off. Well, I'm going to replace it with this, which is a sump bolt for some sort of Volkswagen. Don't know, just found it, but it's about the right length. And yeah, should work perfectly fine. And the 13mm bolt. So the torque specs for these are 10 Newton meters for the 10mm bolts. And the 13mm bolt is 22 Newton meters. Tighten this little nut up for this bracket right here. That's the thermostat done. Next, we're going to take a look at replacing the pulleys. Don't know if you can hear that. Let me put my microphone next to it. They're quite noisy, so they definitely need replacing. They're probably, again, 23 years old and have done 117,000 miles, so they're due a replacement. So this is just an idler pulley right here. So again, just pop the front cover off of it. There is a bolt to remove there. 16mm, it seems. Crikey, that's done up tight, that is. Wow.
Now this is where things start to go really wrong for me.
Oh, that seems to have been over-torqued, to be honest with you. Right, I've got a big breaker bar. I'm not really quite sure why this is so tight.
I believe the reason this was so tight is because of something called galvanic corrosion, where a steel bolt screwed into an aluminium casting will become almost welded to each other over time.
Oh my god, it feels like it's going to snap, to be honest. I'm going to use some heat on it because I have a feeling, a very bad feeling, that it's going to snap. The reason why I'm turning it is to stop the plastic from melting in one place. Obviously, I'm not going to be reusing this, but I just want to make sure that it doesn't burn it and completely melt it. I'm bringing out the big impact gun. If this doesn't do it, nothing will. Oh.
Yeah, this went on for quite some time. I think at this point I'd worked on this one bolt for at least an hour.
This is insane. The amount of strength I'm having to put into this. And there you have it. One snapped bolt. Oh, dear me. That there is what we call a complete and utter nightmare. And that's the good thing about the Wheels on Wheels channel, is we show you all of the mistakes and mishaps and tragedies that happen. I don't know what I'm going to do about that yet. Probably need to find a way of freeing it off and then weld on a nut onto the end of it so that I can loosen it off. I really don't know. That is a complete nightmare. Right, I'm going to be using my trusty Continental AliExpress MIG welder to weld on a nut. You can see I've placed on the stud right there. Hopefully we can use that to break this free and see what we can do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move this power steering fluid reservoir out the way. This way I can move this all the way out the way. So the power steering reservoir is out the way, so I can see the bolt a bit better. And you can see here, it's extremely long. It's probably about that long. So what I'm going to do is heat up this whole surrounding area here. I think this is probably where it's stuck with the blowtorch, and hopefully that frees it up. So the problem I've got is I'm not really sure if it's stuck at the end or stuck somewhere in the middle, but I only have one blowtorch, so I can sort of only heat one thing at a time. Okay. Let's try it at that. Oh, as you can see, I have welded on a new nut. Well, the bolt is still stuck. The welding's held up. It cracked once, but I've welded it again and it's still on there, but the whole bolt is twisting and I can see that the end of the bolt is not turning when I'm twisting it. I'm only moving it a little bit this time because I don't want it to snap again. So I think it's going to need a bit more than just standard WD-40 and just a little blowtorch. I'm going to need some proper heat and some proper penetrant. I don't know what, but I'm going to do some research and come back to you in a bit.
1 week later.
So it's about a week later now after I got stuck with that stuck bolt, and I come armed with some new tools. So I have some MAP Plus gas, which burns supposedly a lot hotter than butane and propane does, and I also have some RP90 that I've been soaking the bolt in throughout the week. So next thing to do is just heat it up nice and hot. Let's see if we can't get this stuck bolt out. I really, really, really hope this bolt comes out, because I really don't want to have to replace the oil filter housing and the alternator in order to just do a idler pulley. It really wasn't worth it. If we get this out, it's totally worth it. So let's give it a go. So the goal here is to use the Mat Plus torch to heat up the casting around the bolt. So we've got this sort of ear on the alternator here, and this bit where it actually threads into on the oil filter housing. Those two things are what we've got to heat up. So let's get them nice and toasty. That's nice and toasty. Bit of RP90 on the bolt. And then quickly grab the bar. Oh God, where's the bar? Right here. Right, ready? It's working, I think. Oh no.
This was the theme for the next couple of hours, so let's just fast forward through this.
It's turning. It is definitely turning. Oh no.
346 minutes later.
Oh my God. I think it's actually coming out. I'm not sure why it's clicking. I think that's it freeing from the threads. This is knackering.
More moments later.
Yes! Come on! Look at that. Oh my days. And look at the kind of weld that I had to get on it, front and back, just to get it to not snap. Oh, I think it's time for a lie down. Out with the old and in with the new. This is the new bolt that I got from BMW. It was only £4, which I thought was quite good. In case any of you guys have the same issue, this is the part number for it. Again, it's only £4 if you get it directly from BMW, which is not too bad. But before I put this in and the new idler pulley, I'm going to carry on doing the other pulleys first and then work back up to it. So whilst we have the idler pulley out the way, we're going to remove and replace the tensioner pulley now. So in my case, it's an 8mm hex bit. Hey, this bolt comes out a lot easier. Wow, look at that. It's worth mentioning on this one, there is a washer on the back. Note the orientation of the washer when you take it off. So this here is the pulley, all as one assembly, and here is the washer on the back. So the washer must be in this orientation. So the concave bit goes to the back, like that. Okay, grab your new tensioner. There's the part number if you want it. Of course, all the links for this kit will be down in the description anyway. So, new tensioner pulley, put the bolt in, and washer on the back, like that. So just screw it in. So the torque spec for this, I believe, is 45 Newton meters. However, I'm going to torque it all later because I can't currently find my 1/2 inch to 3/8 adapter to be able to attach this to my torque wrench. But yeah, 45 Newton meters. So now I'm going to move on to the AC belt. Okay, so we're now underneath the car to replace this air conditioning compressor belt and pulley here. So we're just going to use a 16mm spanner to loosen the tension on the tensioner, turn it clockwise, and then you can just take the belt off. Here we have the old belt that is actually in pretty good condition, to be honest. The main auxiliary belt though, which we can now get off, is not in such good condition. It's dry rotted and cracked all the way around. So this definitely needed replacing. So you can probably see here the AC belt tensioner pulley is looking really rough. It's got like grooves in it. I don't know what's happened there. It looks like it's melted somehow at some point. So that definitely needs replacing. So to do that, you just pop the cover off with a flathead, just like the other pulleys. On this pulley, it's a T50 Torx bit. The T50 Torx bolt. And here we have the pulley looking really rough. The bearing's okay on this one though. How strange. Before I go ahead and put the new AC pulley on, I'm just going to sneak in our new auxiliary belt behind it. So I've been out to Halfords to get a socket adapter so I can actually use my torque wrench. Whilst I've been gone, I've been looking for a torque spec for this AC pulley, and I can't really find one, to be honest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the only torque spec that I can find, which is 28 foot-pounds or 37 newton meters. And for a bit of insurance, I'm going to use some thread locker on the bolt. So I've got plenty of thread lock on the bolt, blue thread lock, not red, because obviously I want to be able to remove it maybe one day again. And yeah, let's just bolt it up. I'm going to torque it to 37 newton meters, and we're going to counter hold it on the tensioner. Okay, and pop our belt back on. There we go, new AC belt pulley. Okay, we're back at the top again, and now I'm going to torque the main tensioner pulley to the spec, which should be 45 newton meters. The only problem with this is it's a bit harder to sort of hold it while you torque it down, because of course you use that bolt to, you know, loosen the tension. Okay, so the next thing is to put the idler pulley in. So you'll see there's a little notch in it there, and there's a notch where it goes. Pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to put this new bolt in, but what I'm going to do is put some of this brake grease in. So this is metal-free permanent lubricant for disc brakes. The reason I'm not using copper grease is because copper grease can also cause galvanic corrosion in aluminium parts, so it won't really help with the corrosion that we saw earlier, but this should. So next time this bolt ever needs to come back out, it shouldn't be seized again like it was today. I'm not going to put too much on the threads at the end, because of course I don't want it to mess with the torque spec too much. I'm pretty sure that it was actually mostly seized in the middle bit, the shaft, but I'll put a little bit on the end. Screw the bolt in. Once again, we are looking for 45 newton meters, and don't forget to pop the cover on like that. Okay, so the only pulley left to reinstall is the water pump pulley. So this is our new water pump pulley. It's worth mentioning before I reinstall this that these bolt holes are actually offset. You can see these two holes are further apart than these two, and these two are. So it only goes on one of two ways, like that or like that. Ask me how I know this. I struggled for quite a while. Right, so put this on. Just going to run them in gently because these are a very low torque spec. The torque spec for these is 10 newton meters, and you sort of have to hold the pulley in place while you do it. It's easier said than done though. That's a bit of a struggle to hold it, so I'm going to actually torque these once the belt is on, because the belt will hold it in place. Okay, let's see if we can get this belt on. So as you can see, we need to relieve a bit of tension to get the belt where it needs to be. So this belt needs to go over the alternator pulley here. So just as we did earlier, I'm going to use an 8mm and turn the tensioner pulley clockwise, and don't force it, just slow, steady pressure. That's all the hydraulic tensioner needs, is slow and steady pressure. Make sure it's on everywhere it needs to be. New belt installed, and now we can torque the water pump pulley bolts to 10 newton meters. Now we can put the cover on the tensioner pulley. So it's now a couple of days later because I changed my mind on this radiator. Originally I was going to keep the one that was in it, but upon further inspection and because of the amount of damage that I caused when I was trying to remove this bolt, I decided it's worth just replacing the radiator. So I'm going to do that now. For that, we just have one T25 screw up here. There is another screw over here that we've already removed to remove the fan. So we've just got this one over here. And then you've got two hoses at the bottom, which we've already removed, and you simply just lift it out. It may require some wiggling, and in my case, I would have had to have removed this power steering reservoir because the hoses are right in the way. But once I've done that, there you have the old radiator. Really nice and simple, to be honest. Okay, so this is our old radiator out, and you can see some of the damage to the fins that was caused all over it, to be honest. And we just need to switch over this bracket where the expansion tank sits on over to the new radiator. So we've got two T25 screws for that, and one over here. There we go. See, it hooks over the top. You've got this lip here where it sits over the top. And I've just realised that this damage here, you can see all these bent fins, that went right behind this bracket. So that wasn't me, because I've not had that bracket off. That was obviously already like that, which is curious. This has obviously been off before. Right, I'll grab the new radiator. Okay, this is our nice new shiny Marl radiator. So I'm going to be extra careful with this. Okay, that's ready to put on the car. So on the radiator itself, you have these little pointy bits at the bottom that sit in these rubber pads right down here at the bottom. So they just sit in there. And I think these bits that poke out are supposed to sit inside these channels right here. Don't know if you can see that. That is very difficult to achieve, but that's what I'm trying to do right now. Okay, now the new radiator is in. I'm going to use some silicone lubricant on all our hoses and reconnect them. Actually, before I do this one, I've got to put the expansion tank in, so I'll just do the others at the bottom first. Remember to plug back in all the sensors. Now we need to put in our shiny new expansion tank. Just need to put a bit of silicone on the bottom where it sits into its bracket, just to make our life a bit easier. There we go. I'll put this hose in. Reinstall our fan. Pop our long Torx bolt in here to secure it. Right here, it looks like there should be something fixing this. I can't really remember taking anything out of here. I've just found a random screw that will work in here. Obviously, shouldn't have this issue. Okay, I'm going to reconnect the cabling for the fan. So you've got this big cable here. And then this little connector over here. Okay, I'm going to put my power steering reservoir back. And let's not forget the plug for the level sensor on the bottom of this reservoir. That's underneath the car. So before I refit the airbox, I'm going to go ahead and fill the system with coolant. I'm going to be using this cool funnel tool I just bought from Amazon. Yeah, pretty nifty. It comes with all the accessories that go inside it, and it has a lid, so it stores its own accessories inside of it. Yeah, apparently it works with almost any car, so that's pretty cool. Nice little thing to have. So I'm going to fill the system with the coolant now, and I'm going to leave it for a while, probably overnight, because I think it's about 11:15 at night, something like that. And then I'll check for any leaks. The reason I'm not putting the airbox in is so that I can see the back of the radiator a bit better and check for any leaks from any of the hoses. So I'm going to go ahead, fill it up now. Wish me luck. Even with a jug this size, I'm still managing to spill it. What the heck? What's wrong with me? You'll notice that the coolant isn't going in, and that's because it has a tap, which I think is quite clever, that you can open once you've poured it in. That'll do for now. Let's open the tap. I'm just going to close it a sec, make sure we've got no leaks. All looking pretty good. Let's keep pouring it in. Apparently this funnel tool can really help with bleeding the system, especially for cars like this where the expansion tank is not necessarily the highest point. It supposedly raises the level at which the coolant is entering the system, therefore the highest point of the system is this, so the air bubbles should come up to the top. That could be complete rubbish what I've just said there, but I think it does help. I'll put a link down in the description for this tool. It is absolutely brilliant. Highly recommended. I don't know if you can see that there, all these air bubbles coming up to the top. That is really satisfying to see, so you can see the airlocks actually being removed. Okay, so now that the coolant has been filled, it's time to reinstall the airbox so that we can start the engine and get the coolant flowing around the system. Not to forget to remove the cloth or towel or rag or whatever you put in the intake tube. So I've now reinstalled the airbox, which is just the two 10mm bolts and the clamp here, and of course the plug for the MAF sensor. And now we are ready to start the engine. You'll notice I haven't put the air ducting here in place or the under tray, and that's because I want to be able to see for any leaks once we start the engine. We have to start the engine and get it up to temperature so that the thermostat opens, so that we know the coolant is flowing around the system completely. I'm going to have to open the doors for this because of course we're going to get gassed out otherwise, but yeah, let's start the engine. Ooh, very exciting. Before we get completely gassed out, we need to just have a quick look at our belts and everything. Make sure the belts and the pulleys are all running true, which they seem to be. Now we just need to leave it to warm up, and then the system will be bled. So the engine's been running for a couple of minutes, and I don't know if you can see this, but it's already starting to bubble up. So these are all tiny little air pockets that are coming out of the system. So you can see already the level is going down now. What I'm going to do is open this bleed screw at the top. Oh wow, Look at the level go down. That is a lot of coolant that we've just lost there. It's all gone. Wow, okay, so it's very important to make sure to open that bleed screw when you're doing this process. Clearly. Look at it. I don't know if you can hear the air coming out of there as well. That's it, I'm now out of coolant. Where is all the coolant going? I'm going to need more coolant. I've just been to Halfords and got myself some more coolant. The 5 litres I bought was not enough. So we'll start the engine again and do the bleeding one more time. We'll open that bleed screw one more time. Just coolant coming out now, no more air bubbles. So that is that. So we'll close our tap and hopefully get the rest of what's in this funnel back into here. There you go, look how good that is. Now, I can open the tap again, put the coolant back into the bottle. It's good that.
I then reinstalled the under tray. And lowered the car back down to the ground.
And now I've got to tidy up all this mess. That was easy. That was my attempt at a transition. It was probably terrible because the camera reset its position. Anyway, now all there is left to do is go for a quick test drive. Shut the boot first. So I'm out on the test drive now and I can confirm the car drives just as well as it did before. It drives perfectly. The engine is heating up to temperature now though, and we no longer have a coolant level warning light. It is just absolutely perfect as it should be. What an absolutely fantastic car this really is, honestly. The E46 is a fantastic platform. I know the M3 is something special, but this is pretty cool as well. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, please make sure to like the video. I would really appreciate that. And subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss any of the uploads about this car or any of my other projects. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.